Hi, this is Renee. Welcome to my channel. This is my final flip through video of this Bluebird junk journal that I've been working on. I have posted a couple of other videos about it. I actually built the journal quite a while ago, but I never finished it. It is a vintage book cover that is intact. I did not cut the book apart. I just took the book block out. And the cover was so grungy and damaged, and it wasn't a really pretty cover to begin with. So I painted it white and just distressed it around. And then the cover, the spine is covered with some of this material. It's actually from like a pillowcase or a sheet, but the gray. And then some lace. What I originally had was just a little picture or a cutout from a piece of paper, like cardstock, glued on the journal cover, but I decided to make a journal topper as the closure. And I shared the measurement in one of the previous videos. I think it's like 8.5 by 5.5. Well, almost 6 by 8.5. And then the spine is, I don't know, a little over an inch, only because it's so stuffed. But okay, so these are the pieces that did not fit. This is just a little notepad with some extra writing space. This is the paper that I used to put on the actual cover. I glued it on, you'll see in just a second. And so I just wanted to use some of the paper that I had left over. This is a vintage music page that I just folded up, and it has a bunch of little tuck spots. So it comes with these vintage buttons, 3 different vintage playing cards, some ledger paper, another music sheet. And this is it's just a really hard, thick journaling card. And so you can use it as, to write on, or I know a lot of times people will use these like under the page you're writing on to give it a harder surface. And then a little lace and ribbon snippet, just a bunch of little snippets that whoever gets this journal can use to embellish more. Not that there's much room to do that. All right, so the closure, like I said, is a journal topper. And I used a smaller piece of the same material that is on the spine. This is from a vintage, I believe, an encyclopedia. I just cut a bunch of different bird images out of different books that I have. And then I layered it on top of some cardstock paper, some cheesecloth, and then embellished it with this little button here. So you can actually journal on the back if you want. It is cardboard. And then this is the image that originally I was just going to leave the journal like this, but I don't know. I thought, well, I've got to make a closure, so I might as well make a fun one. And this journal has 3 signatures, and each signature has, the first page is like some cardstock, and I put lace on the first page of each signature so you can find them quickly. Well, you're supposed to find them quickly. There it is. And then this one. Okay, I hope I was in frame for all that. I wasn't even paying attention. So let's see. On the inside cover, I left the inside of the book as is because the inside book pages were actually really pretty. I used this really fun kind of canvasy burlap material on the inside of the spine. This is just a journaling card with the tuck spot and a journaling tag. And since this is a bird-themed book, most of the embellishments are birds. Okay, the inside of the first signature has a belly band, and what I did was, because I had to take out a lot of these thicker, larger pieces, they were all tucked throughout, I just added some very thin pages from the bird book, a vintage bird book I have, and a lot of the pages are part of the signatures as well. This is an old journal dictionary page, and then this vintage rummy card, and I chose the B for bird. All right, and each signature has pretty much the same layout as far as pages. There are some of these vintage bird book pages, and then some coffee and tea dyed paper. And I stamped or stenciled across on some of the pages. This is from a very vintage, it's not quite antique, but it's almost antique. It's a typeset book, and so it has all these different kind of alphabet typesets. And so this is actually a printed photocopy of one of the pages. I'm hoarding that book, and I really need to just use the pages, but they're beautiful. I did use some random pages from the last of the Mohicans, but anyways, so I just added a little cardstock tuck spot here, some more pieces. So what I did was I tried to include some of the pieces from the cardstock that I used to create some of the embellishments, and you'll see. And then this is coffee dyed writing paper. Book page. This is actually a printed photocopy from a vintage flower book page, and I stamped a little dragonfly there. Just put some parchment, very thin parchment paper in there. Now this is, I think this is also a photocopy of a book page. I just really need to start using my book pages. And I used a time card to create some tuck spots on this book page. And so inside of this one is a journaling tag, a book page, a vintage book page, and then this really cool little, it's from like a little notepad, but it's very worn and vintagey looking. And then in here is another tiny little tuck spot. I have these little circle cutouts, and I was going to create some little page tabs, but I decided I would just put them in here and let the recipient use those however they would like. I don't even know how many pages are in each signature. I should probably count. And in the middle is going to have another page from the bird book. I think this bird book is from 1942. I have a list of like my vintage books that I actually use the pages from, just so I can keep track of the years and things like that. So the second half of this first signature is just the opposite side of each of those pages that I just went through. So here's the other side of the time card tuck spot, and I have a little altered plain card with a bird cut out there. In each signature, I do have one page that I laced some ribbon through the edge of the page. A little flower stamp there. This is the last page of this first signature, and inside here I have a little paper snippet, kind of cascaded waterfall, so the recipient can just use some of those pieces. And this is coffee dyed paper from, this was actually from an old notebook I found at a thrift store. It's just regular lined paper, but I do think it was a little bit old. It's nice and thick, so the quality is very different from what we find in the stores nowadays. And the second signature. Okay, the inside of this second signature has another tuck spot, some coffee dyed, like a receipt paper, tiny snippets of random pieces of paper, a little doily, and this cute bird image. And hiding in this tiny little tuck is a bird embellishment. So you can use that somewhere. More from that book, that bird book. Oh, this one is the prettiest, ornamental. I should have made this a center spread or center page so you could see how pretty the whole page is. It's gorgeous. And this is a flip out with just some journaling. The back side of this vintage music page was just ugly, and so I covered it with some coffee dyed paper so you can journal there. Another copied printout. I found this very old ledger and it had some blank pages, but also some really beautifully written in pages, and I need to start using those as well. But I did make some photocopies, so that's what this is from. So I think like this little flip notebook was originally tucked here, but the book is just way too thick, so I added some thin cardstock and a little card there. This is, I think each signature has one of these time cards, and so this one I just created belly bands and tucked in some tiny little ephemera. Oops, forgot that was okay. Oh, so I used a different page from that typeset book for the middle spread, and I made them really large tuck spots. So you've got this journaling card here, and then this, I had a little paper clip with a pretty ribbon on top, but this is just a plain piece of cardstock because, like I said, I needed some thin pieces in here. It's just so thick. I think I originally had this in there. Or this, I can't remember which, but here's the other side of that. Well, and I'll find the paper clip that should go there with the little ribbon, but anyways. And I just have some washi tape wrapped around a little piece of paper, little piece of cardstock there. This is some, I don't know how you determine if material and lace are vintage or not, but this was, I got this from a thrift store. It was a very vintagey looking shirt, and so I just cut it up. And so this is just a nice panel of lace that can be used. Maybe you can put some journaling, some kind of paper down here to journal on. It could be a little secret spot. Journaling card. This one's very thick, and it's just got a little collage there, and a doily. This also should have a little piece of ribbon on it. I'll add that before I put this in my Etsy shop. I glued, or it's washi tape, the back side of that ornamental page, and it's just a couple of little things in here. Here's the page edge with ribbon laced through that on the second signature. And the back of the second signature has a belly band with a cute little bird tag, a couple of little pieces of cardstock, and another doily. So I do have a lot of completed embellishments like tags and cards and things, but I also like to include just random scraps and pieces for the person who receives the journal, because I've purchased junk journals before, and I love having some of the scraps and pieces to create new collages and art spreads and things like that. So I try to do that. Okay, third signature, belly band on the inside, again with some different pieces of paper. Bird book page, one of those type stamps. So on this one I stamped a little hummingbird like it's drinking from the flower. This is another flip out with some journaling space. I could do like I did with the other one and add some writing paper here. Maybe I'll do that before I post this in my Etsy shop. Some little snippets and another doily. And this is the middle spread of the third signature. A little tuck spot here with a bunch of goodies tucked inside. I tried to kind of coordinate the snippets to whatever the tuck spot is made of and the colors, and I mean these go so beautifully with this. A couple of pieces back here. I created a little pocket here and just found some cardstock paper that the colors match. It's just a plain little tag. I needed something thin again because everything else was so thick. Here is the page with the little ribbon laced through. These are little paper coasters with bird images I found at a thrift store. I've been hoarding these also, so I'm finally getting rid of one. This is my first one I'm putting into a project. And then the back side of the third signature is one of my favorite pages in this book. It has, what I did was I fussy cut this image from a 12 by 12 cardstock paper. And then I tucked in a greeting card with bird images that match the color and another one of those vintage rummy cards. And then the inside of the very back of the journal just has some more snippets and pieces to use for embellishing. Oh, and I did forget to say that I created this as a hidden spine. And so I sewed the signatures into a piece of cardstock in here. And then that was glued to the material and then glued the material. So that's it. That is the Bluebird junk journal that I have been working on for a very long time. So you can see it's just really hard to close, but it will come with these additional pieces that I felt did not fit. And the journal topper. Well, thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.